this print actions page is now pretty much done. We have the delete working, the cancel working, and we need to get the save working. Just before that though, I think we need to create a dialog system. So when we currently delete these items, there's just no warning, it simply deletes, which is definitely not what we want. Because this may or may not want to work cross-platform, I think we'll just invent our own dialog system. It's not that hard, and we don't want to use the conventional Windows pop-up dialogs because they're not transferable over to mobile and potentially other platforms. So let's just roll one of them out. One thing I did notice, when you click new action, we've lost the selectability here, so I think that's just a little bug somewhere in the new item. New print item. Yeah, this needs just moving after it's added, otherwise it can't select. I don't know whether that's something that I changed at the end of the video and forgot to record, or whether it's a bug that we ended up with, but hopefully, there we go, that fixes it. So you can see we have the cancel that deletes the new items, which makes sense, and then if you edit these, it restores. But this delete, we definitely don't want to just do this. We want to warn when we click delete. Because we're using dependency injection and view models, we're obviously going to have to make view models and services and use all of these things together to make this work nice, but it actually makes the job really simple. So let's start in the main view model, because this will be the main window that's shared, and it's not the main window as in this, because if you go to the app, go to the code behind, you can see when we're on a different thing like mobile, then we don't even have a main window, we only have a main view. So the main window would never get injected. So we want to do the work in the main view. This is bound to the main view model. And so in here, we know we need something about a dialog. This page is going to host the dialog itself, and we're going to overlay it manually. So for that, we know we'll need something. And we'll say we probably want a dialog view model, which we don't currently have. And we'll call this current dialog, and it will be an observable property. So let's go ahead and make a dialog view model, and this will be the base class for dialogs, because there'll be many. You'll have a confirmed dialog, maybe a completely custom one. A dialog is just something that's going to pop up. So we'll call it dialog view model, and we want this view model to just have the absolute requirements of every view model, not anything specific. So one thing that's obvious about a view model is it should be is dialog open, I guess. And this will be an observable property. So that's a standard thing for all dialogs, is they have a state of whether they're open or not. And this wants to inherit a view model base. And then really, I think the only common thing between dialogs is literally the fact it's open or not. So that's all we need to implement. And then we'll need a function for showing and closing. I'm not going to make these async. I'm going to allow you to show a dialog, close a dialog, carry on doing things, and we'll add a separate function if you do want to await it, because classic dialogs have an awaitable show, so you have to wait for show to come back before it then closes. We want to give a little bit more flexibility, just because we can. So what we need to do in these is quite simply, is dialog open equals false when you close. And this is all going to be view model bound. And Rider just keeps crashing on me lately, so it's just lost everything I've typed. Let me just quickly retype that again. Don't know why that's all of a sudden started. So as I was saying before, Rider completely crashed. We'll have is dialog open as false, and for show is dialog open as true. And this is just going to be then view model bound. So you can simply bind to whether we should visibly see the dialog open or closed, and it's that simple. Now, because we want to be able to await something and know when it's closed instead of hooking into events, we'll also make one that's asynchronous, specifically to await it. So we don't want that to be an asynchronous show and you have to call one or the other. We'll literally make the method just have wait async, and that's literally what we'll call it. In order to wait for something to close, we're going to have to create a protected, in this case, because we want to inherit from this view model class, a task completion source. And this is just a way to await something in code. So we can now await on this task, and then we can set this inside this code when we want to do something. So if we do a new task completion source, what we can do is in the wait, we can just literally await the task of this. So now if they call this function, it's never going to return until this task completes. And we're in control of this, and we have to say when it's going to complete. So it wants to complete when we close. So in that case, all we have to do is do close task.setResult. Because we don't return anything, you can return stuff like Boolean and values, and then you could set the result in here to something. We don't care about a result, we literally just want to hang and wait until this is set. When we show, just in case for whatever reason we open and show a few times, we want to reset this closed task. So every time we open, I think you want to make a new task, just as good practice, so this is always going to get remade. It does mean, however, if you show twice, then this wait could wait forever if somebody calls this accidentally. So we probably just want to check first if close task is completed, then we make a new one. Otherwise we don't. So now you can call show 3 times and then close once and it'll still work. If you call show, close and show, it will create a new task because this one's finished. That should be it for the generic view model. We basically have a view model that is aware of an open and close state, and we can await that state. There's nothing too special there. And I think for the first dialog we just want to confirm one. So we'll make another class now and call it confirm dialog view model. This can now inherit from the dialog view model. We'll want to be partial. And now we want things specific to the confirm dialog. So for that, we would have a public void confirm, which is something we want to bind to the yes button or the no button for confirming and cancelling. And this would be a relay command. And this will all make sense when it gets bound to a view. For that, we want to set something in the view model because a dialog isn't aware of it being confirmed or not. The generic view model is only aware of being open and closed, whereas a confirm dialog should be aware of the state of whether it's confirmed or not. So for that, we'll actually add a private Boolean called confirmed, and that's an observable property. And now when we confirm it, we can simply set that confirmed to true. And then we also, because we're confirming, imagine we've clicked the yes button and confirmed, we want to set the close. So the dialog view model's base class, you want to call this close, so it will attempt to close the dialog. And we could also stop this crashing by doing try set result instead of just set result. So for whatever reason this managed to get called when this was already closed, by simply calling this twice, which is possible. So you click show once, call close twice, it would crash. Doing try set result will just ignore that, so that's a bit safer. And then just the same, we want another relay command. And this one will be the opposite, this will be cancel. And for that, confirmed, we'll just reset to be sure to false and close the dialog. So that will now fully function as a confirm. But we also want to add some properties so we can customize the UI. And a classic confirm dialog will have something like these. So you'll have a title, the text, 2 buttons with obviously text for either button. One is to cancel, one is to confirm. And we might even want an icon. So we'll just use the phosphor icon for now. And we'll make something like this. So for that, we'll just want the private string title. And we'll put some default values in. I'll just copy and paste this a few times. And we'll want message, confirm text, cancel text, icon text. And I think that's it. So now we have a full confirm dialog that we can now do the UI for. We've got all the properties we need to bind for the cancel and close. And we have the dialog itself. So before we go any further, let's now make the actual view so we've got something we can visualize. Otherwise, this might not make too much sense. So we'll make a user control. We'll call this confirm dialog view. And we want to make sure we name it the exact same as this because we're going to use the view model locator to convert this confirm dialog view model into a confirmed dialog view. So the name is important. Let's get up the preview and put it this side. And in here, we need to set up a few things first. So we need the namespace for the view model. So we can bind to view models. We need the X data type, which is the view model. And in this case, it's the confirm dialog. And we need the data context, is it? Design.data context. That's the one. And then here now it can be the view model confirm. So that means when we're data binding, it's aware that we should have this, and it's going to new up an instance for the designer. Chuck a border in. We want, let's just do background rediment so we can see something. And then everything inside can be in a stack panel. And then we're going to do the top title bar now. So the title bar across the top. For that we'll want a border with a background of primary background gradient. Let's try that. And in here we'll want the text block so we can actually start seeing something. Otherwise this is getting a bit confusing to try and visualize in my head. We'll have the text bound to the title. Now we should see something. We might have to compile to see something. There we go. So now we've got the background in red so we can just see everything for the minute. The confirm's up here so you can see we need to set some values. For that we want a bit of padding. We'll want the, in fact for the control we'll set the foreground up here to primary foreground. There we go, so everything inherits this colour. You don't want to set every single text to that value. I want to make this a bit fatter and larger. We'll do a bit bigger text and make it bold maybe. There we go. I think we want to also round the corners and bring the dialogue in. So for that, on the top, if we did corner radius, you can see down here we've got a corner radius. The top doesn't have it because just the way Avalonia works with clipping, and I tend to find if it's something like corner radius, even if you do clip to bounds, oh, clip to bounds has worked. I was going to say half the time this doesn't work when you do clip to bounds, and then I just end up putting corner radius on like the other border or wherever you're trying to get the borders to match. But it looks like it's working at the minute. We want a bit of a margin so we can add a drop shadow. We want the background to be transparent, which to be honest I don't think we're going to see the background on this. It's just going to show us white obviously. So for now we just got to remember to change this back. Let's put this as the primary background because that's what it's going to effectively be behind. But when we're finished, let's make sure we make that transparent. So now the main background instead of red, let's set that correct. Now we can see what we're doing. And that will be also primary background. And then you can see we really need some kind of border or something happening, otherwise it doesn't look correct. So what we'll do for that is border brush, dynamic resource, we want just kind of a light outline. So maybe that. Oh, there you go. Default gradient. Don't even remember making that one. That looks like a lightish colour. Let's try that. And then the border thickness we'll set to, and we actually have a property in here I think we started making to primary border thickness. There we go. There you go. Now see how the clip to bounds is no longer working. Now we have a border on this. The border's going behind the overlay. So this is kind of the problem with the clip to bounds. It doesn't always work. So the quick way I found to solve that is on this border, just do a corner radius that matches the other corner radius here. And it kind of fixes that for you. Then you'll notice you've got a corner radius in here. You can just about see. So if we change that to, just change that to rediment so you can see clearly. See this undercut here? I don't really like that. So what we'd want to do is on this, we want to do 0, 20. No, other way around. Of course it is. 20, 0. So it rounds the tops, flats the bottoms. And you've got this real little hairline of colour bleed through, but we don't really care about that for now. So that's how we get the outline working. Let's add a drop shadow to this top level border. So we can do that here, and that's really simple. We can just do border dot effects, is it? Yeah, border dot effect, then drop shadow effect. And we'll just set a colour. And this wants to be primary. Actually, we haven't got any colours defined, have we? Because these are brushes, not colours. I probably want to do this light colour. But because this is not defined as a color, we need to break that out. So we'll do that by doing a color, and I'll just set the color, can't remember. I think you must just have to set it inside of the content. I don't think there's a property. So we'll do this here. Give this a name. Call this primary. What have we got it here? Primary background color 1 and color 2. We'll set this to 1, this to 2. And then because we don't want to duplicate this, obviously, it doesn't make any sense. Instead of doing that, we'll bind to a dynamic resource of primary color 1 and primary color 2. And if I've done that right, this will still work. And now in here, we should have access, there we go, to primary color 1 and 2. And if we compile, there we go, we've got like a little hazy light background. So if I change that again, just so you can see what's happening, to red, you'll see we've got a nice little drop shadow. Change it to that slightly lighter color, and it's really subtle, but once it's open, we'll see what it looks like. I think that's not going to look too bad. And this is also working, but complaining, saying it's expecting 1 or 4. So it's a bit strange. Don't know if the IntelliSense is wrong, but we'll just put 4 in to stop that IntelliSense complaining. Now we've got the confirm part, we need the icon and description. So inside the stack panel, after the title, which again, you can start doing things like this to keep the XAML a bit easier to follow. Then you do here sort of main dialog window in a sense, title, and this will be the description. So we'll do another border, some padding in there. We'll then do a stack panel with an orientation of horizontal because we want the icon on the left and the text on the right. Do a label with a class of icon and the content of icon text, which I don't know if we set a default value. Actually, that's a point. Did we even edit the default values? No, we didn't. So for this, let's just put some basic text. Are you sure? Confirm would be yes. Cancel would be no. And the icon, we need to put in an icon for a warning sign, which will be search for warning. That one will do. E4, E0. And the difference between XAML, which would be, I think it's what, $ hashtag X, and then E4, E0, semicolon. You don't do that in actual C# strings because this is just a XAML specific way of doing. So this hashtag and $ is just replacing a backslash, and you don't need the semicolon at the end. So the key information, these 4 digits in C# strings is \x and then the value, whereas in XAML it's obviously $ hashtag and a semicolon. So it's the same value, but you just declare it different. Now if we compile that, we can see we've got the little warning icon showing up, and then we just want some text in a text block with, make sure it wraps around. And we'll bind this to description, is it? What's it called? Thought it was description. Message. There we go. So now we have the message. The size of this also, we want to just auto size. So if we just delete the designer's width and height, let it be what it wants to be, which is correct. We probably just want to set a min width so it's not too small. I think that's probably the only thing we want to do. So at least it's a certain size. That works fine. And I think just before we forget, to be honest, because I know I'm going to forget this, let's just change this now back to transparent. We know what it's going to look like around the outline there. We can see it's going to have a drop shadow. So for now, the transparent will look white, but we know when it's overlaid, that's going to be see-through to whatever's below. And I guess we can move that inside there. Because we still want the padding for the buttons. And now we'll have the buttons. again, we'll do another stack panel with an orientation of horizontal, exactly the same. Oh yeah, you can't do that inside the border, so we need another stack panel with a spacing of 20 to match and move them inside. Lots of stack panels. Could probably do this slightly more efficient, but this is working for now. And then in here, we'll just chuck 2 buttons. We'll have the text, or the content on a button. Binding, the first one will be the left side, so it's going to be the cancel text. The command, when you click it, is going to be what we've already made, which is the cancel command, so it's all set up for us and ready. Cancel command. These are new lines. We want a class of, is it danger? Yep, an outline for the no. And the horizontal alignment we want to be on the right. And in fact, that wants to be the stack panel, not the button actually. There we go. Copy and paste that button. Do confirm text. Confirm command. And this wants to be success and not outline. And this wants a spacing of 20 as well. There we go, it's not looking too bad. I think maybe a spacing of 10. And maybe we want a min spacing, a min width rather, on these buttons as well. Yeah, and a horizontal content alignment now, center. There we go. Yeah, that's better. Now we've got buttons. So that should be the dialogue, I think. That will do everything we need. So let's now chuck that into the main view. So this is where, this will be specific to your application and where you want dialogues appearing. So we can choose where we want to put this dialogue, and all we'll do is in the view model for it, just add a dialogue. And now it's up to our view to just bind to this dialogue and do something with it. So you're completely flexible on what you want to do. And also we're going to do is after this border, so this is inside a grid. So if we put something else here, put say another border, background red, you can see we're going to overlay onto whatever's here. We want the grid.column0 to be explicit and the grid.column_span 2. And now we simply have something that's overlaid on the entire view. For that, we will do a background of black. Opacity of say 0.5, and there's our faded overlay. We'll probably want to put this in a grid, to be honest, because we need the background and the dialogue. So we'll do grid, and this is where we'll move this then to the grid. Put the border inside this one. And now we can put in here what we'll do is a content control, and the content can be bound now to the view model's current dialogue, I believe it is. And then that should now appear. And it's not. So why is this content not being converted? There. We limited the view model, if you remember, because of some other issue where we didn't always want a view model converting to a view if it wasn't a page. But now we have a dialogue as well that we do. So we'll add our dialogue view model there. And hopefully that'll catch and convert the current dialogue. Oh yeah, and of course we actually have to set the current dialogue. That would help. So for now, let's just make a new confirm dialogue. And we also want to show it, which is dialogue open is true. So then at least when we compile now, not got a problem now. There we go. So now we have a confirmed dialogue. That's absolutely huge. Let us align that then horizontally, center, vertically, center, and there we go. Let's just run that as an application, check what it looks like. Nice. So now we have the confirmed dialog popping up, and we want to, these will be running the code, but we now want to just bind the view correctly to the dialog. So the first thing we'll do is say is visible on the overlay, and this can be bound to the current dialog is dialog open, and then I think if we click that, it'll close. There you go. That's cool. So we just rebuild. This is bound now to the is dialog open. The button inside the dialog's already bound to the view model for setting confirm to true and then calling close. The close then calls as dialog open as false, and thanks to view model binding, that all naturally works. And even in the designer, it then closes the dialog. That's the beauty of view model binding. That's literally done. There's now your dialog, and we have a dialog we can now open and close. We can obviously add some animations to this and fade it in and out, and we need to actually call this dialog when we are in the actions page and doing something. But for now, we've got the basics of the dialog working, and we can start looking at how to bind this in after.